In this video, we will create stunning 3D carousels that react when we hover over them. We will explore advanced techniques to animate images smoothly without using keyframes. And finally, we will see how we can apply this to UI animations, like in this example, where these folders open and animate automatically. If we take a look at this scene right over here, we can see that we have this selector in here, this circle selector, and wherever that goes, the images react to it, they increase in size, and they also change in shape. So in this case, they are turning from a circle to a square. So this is where we are going to start, since this combines multiple techniques and it should give you a good idea on how this works. Moreover, if we move to the last part of this video right over here, we have this scene where we have this pointer that is going over these folders, and these folders are not just changing their size, but they are also being animated. So in this case, they are opening up and they are also changing colors. Now, these are some complex techniques, but I am going to take you step by step in here so that you would be able to follow through and do this yourselves. I have an empty composition in here, 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to start to add a shape layer right over here. Just double click on the rectangle tool. Now we're going to open rectangle from here, go to rectangle path, and we're going to give it a size of 1080 by 1080. Now I'm going to call this image shape 1, and I'm going to hit S for scale and scale it down to around 30%. And I'm going to pick it up and move it to this side of the screen, somewhere around here. Now I'm going to duplicate this 5 times, and each time I duplicate, I'm going to move it just slightly to the right. So let's duplicate one more time, move it to the right, one more time to the right, and for the last one, I'm going to duplicate and I'm going to move it all the way to here, right over there. And now I'm going to pick all of those, hold shift to pick them all, and we're going to click on distribute horizontally, and they will be perfectly aligned right over there. Now I have always moved the next one just slightly to the right, just so they keep their order when we distribute them horizontally. So right now we can see the first one is this, the second one is this one, and the third one is that, fourth and fifth, and so on. Now we are going to add the images. So I'm going to find my images in here, and I'm going to just drag and drop 5 images from here over this composition. And I'm going to hit S for scale, and I'm going to scale them to around 8%. We can pick the first one here and start aligning them over these rectangles. So I'm just aligning them in here on my eye, basically. That's perfect. Now we can rename these. I would like to rename these to image 1, image 2, and so on, all the way up to 5. And once you have renamed them, you can simply pick them up, hit S for scale to remove the scale from there, and then we can start linking these to the image shapes right over here. So what I would like to do is select the first one here, go to its track mat. If you cannot see this, simply toggle the switch, and then you're simply going to click on this menu and link that to image shape 1. Go to the second one and choose the 2, the third one, so 3, 4, and 5. And like that, as you can see, each image is being cut by this image shape right over here. Now the next step would actually be to parent them. So right now, if we pick image shape 1, we can move it around, and you can see it will just lose its position. So in order to keep its position, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go to image 1 and do the same, but with the parent this time. So I'm going to parent it to image shape 1. We can also use the drop down menu in here. So 2, we're going to use image shape 2, image shape 3, image shape 4, and 5. And now you can see that they are all linked, and if I move this one, the image would move with it. That's what I want. Now, very quickly, I would like to explore what we would be doing in here in terms of animation. So if we pick this image shape, that would be the image shape 3, we can scale it up. So if I hit S for scale and scale it up, you can see the scale animation. Of course, I'm not going to be doing this by hand, but effectively, this is what we would like to do, is to scale it up. Secondly, is to change its shape. And to change the shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, go to Contents, go to Rectangle 1, Rectangle Path, and find Roundness. And if we increase the roundness to around 50, we can see that we have slight rounded edges in there. But if we increase it to around 1000, you can see that now it's a full circle. So we would be using these attributes to change the shape of this layer. So let's put that back to 0. And now we're going to introduce a null layer. Now, the following technique is something that we have covered in the past, but this time we are going to do a little twist to it to make it work for us for this specific instance. So let's go to Layer, and we're going to go to Layer, New, and Null Object. We are going to rename this to Effector. And it is very important to have the naming exactly like this in this case, since this won't work if you have a different name. And then over this Effector, we're going to go to Effects and Presets, and we're going to bring in a slider control. Just drag and drop it over that layer. And we are going to rename this to Radius. Make sure that the naming is exactly like this. Let's duplicate that. We're going to rename this to Radius Strength. And for the next one, we're going to rename this to Scale 2. Once again, make sure the naming is 100% like this. Now with that done, we are going to introduce a simple expression over these shape layers. Now, don't worry, I know that expressions tend to scare people off. So for this reason, I have made all the expressions in a document, which you can simply copy and paste, and we will explain them right over here. So don't worry about anything, just copy them and it should work fine. So I have this document right over here, which I will be sharing with you, and I'm simply going to find the proximity-based scale adjustment, and we're going to copy that. So copy, and we're going to go over the scale of this one, press S if you don't see scale, go over the stopwatch and hold Option and click, or Alt and click. You can simply paste the expression right over there. And as you can see, the shape layer have disappeared like that. That means that something has happened with this expression, so that's a good sign. Let's go now to this effector right over here, and we can increase immediately the radius, increase it to around 400. Now we find that image back in there, and if we move this around in here, we can see that image reacting to that null layer. Now, as you can see, the scale 2 is set to 0, and that is why this is reducing in size. So if I had to increase this, let's say I increase it to around 40, now you can see it increasing in size rather than reducing in size. So now let's move on to the next part, which is basically to apply the same thing to all the other images. Go to Scale, copy that, Command C, and paste it right over the other ones, Command V. Now if I pick the effector, you can see the same thing happening for all of these. And what we can do is we can actually adjust the initial scale, and to do that we can pick all of these, press S for scale, and we can change these to 25%. Now if I pick the effector, we can see this working like that. Brilliant, so this looks nice already. Now what I would like to add is that shape-shifting functionality. Before we go into that, I wanted to show you this great product that are sponsoring this section of this video, which is called Moji from Bento Motion. These have some really great animations that you can just drag and drop into your projects. So let's have a quick look. I am right inside of After Effects in here, and I have this product loaded up. And if I go to the typography section right over here, I can just hover over any of these designs right over here. And once I like something, I can just simply click Apply. And that looks really great. Now, the great thing is that they also have independent assets that you can just drag and drop. So of course they have loads of emojis in here, which are really cool. And they also have things like backgrounds and titles. So let's go to the backgrounds in here, and I'm going to go to around this place right over here, and they can simply click on a background in here and click Apply. With that in place in there, I can go now to the title section, find a good title, so this one right over here, and click Apply as well. And like this, very quickly, I can simply build my own scenes like that. Of course, you can customize these, so I can click on any of these assets in here, go to Edit right over here, and you are presented with a super simple UI in here, and we can type in whatever we like in here. So I can type in any text. We can go to the color section and even change the colors. So if I go to the box colors, for instance, I can give this like a lime green color in here, like that. And there we go. Now we have a completely new scene. Finally, we can add a quick emoji. So let's go to presets, go to emoji. And if I go to reactions right over here, there's an emoji which I really like, which is this one. I'm going to click Apply. And now we can preview this whole animation. So as you can see, in seconds, we can build up our own unique scenes using this tool. They have even more assets, so in here you can find things like reactions and even sound effects. I am going to leave all the links in the description for that, where you can get 30 of these animations for free. Now let's jump back into our video and turn those square images into circles. First, we're going to go to the Effector, go to Scale 2 in here and duplicate that, and we're going to rename this to Property 1 from. Duplicate that, and the next one would be 2. So basically, we're going to use these two values to shift from one thing to the other. Now, let's go back to our document, and you're going to find this one here at the end, proximity-based Property 1 adjustment, and we're simply going to copy that, Command-C, and then we're going to go over one of these, open that up, and find roundness, so contents, rectangle, and rectangle path, and roundness. Alt-click on this and paste the expression right over there. Now, if I pick this null layer in here, we can see that nothing is really happening. This is because we need to change these values right here. So let's just adjust these. Property 1 from, I am going to adjust that to 1000, so it's fully circle. And then property 2, I'm going to adjust that to 200, so it's more rectangular. So now, if I am away, it's a circle, since the full value is 1000 in here, and if I go over it, it changes to 200, turning into a rectangle. Perfect, now all we need to do is basically pick this roundness in here and paste it over the other shapes. Now, to do this, it's not as simple as it was before, so we need to copy this, and we need to find the same property on each of these. So we need to open the first one here, open contents of rectangle, rectangle path, go over roundness and paste right over that. And like that, we have changed the second one. And we need to repeat the same steps over the other 3 images. Now, in this case, we only have 5 images, but if you had many more, I would suggest using something like the Mobar toolbar in here. So I have this example right over here. You can download this from a link in the description. Make sure you are on the property that you would like to select. So in this case, roundness, go to this button and click on select meshing property. Click select properties and it will automatically select the meshing properties on any layer in that composition. And now we can simply press paste. And that's basically it. Go to Effector. I can see this whole setup working in here beautifully, as you can see. Now for the next scene, we're going to explore how we can do these nice rotational carousels. But before that, I would like to very humbly ask you if you can simply like or even comment below. This would really help me to reach more people and be able to do more videos like this one. With that said, let's go to the next composition, which is an empty composition like before. And we are going to start by adding a new composition. So let's go to composition, new composition, and we're going to create a composition which would name it image 1. And width, I would like it to be 1080, height 1080, and press OK. We have a perfectly square composition in here. Now we're going to add a rectangle in here. Double click on the rectangle tool. We're going to open this rectangle in here, find roundness, and we're going to increase that to around, let's say, that size, 180. So we are going to pick an image and simply drag and drop it right over here. Scale it down and place it right over there, and then we can simply click on this button. If you cannot see it, simply toggle the switches right over here. Click on this button under the T, and as you can see, when we click this, this will take the transparency from the layers underneath it. Let's move back to this empty composition here. Let's pick that image and place it on top of the background. Perfect. Let's scale it down to something, let's say, like 50%. And then I'm going to turn that to 3D, and I'm going to pick it up. Let's make sure this is toggle to on, and then we're going to move it up slightly, somewhere like this. Now I would like to move its anchor point, so I'm going to pick the anchor point from right over here, then pick the anchor point from the middle in here, and simply move it down right over here at the bottom. So now we have this image in here, and I would like to add a new null layer. So layer, new, and go to null object. And we are going to rename this to images position. And we are going to simply pick that image and parent it to that image's position layer. The next step would be to duplicate this image. So we're going to duplicate it. And what I would like to do now, I'm going to go to the first image in here and simply set that to none. The parenting set it to none. Now I'm going to go over this null layer, go on R on my keyboard, and I'm going to press 13 here. And now, as you can see, since I have unparented the first one, and only left one parented, this null layer is only rotating one of the layers right over here. So we are going to repeat this process. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to unparent the one below in here, and I'm going to go over here and enter inside of the box and hit plus 30. And now, as you can see, I am creating this circular pattern. We're going to continue doing this until we fill the whole 360 degrees. So let's duplicate, unparent this one, go over here, and click on +30 and continue doing this like that. And like that, we have a full circle. Now I would like to pick all of these images and parent them back to the image position right over there. And now I can simply use this layer in here to rotate these and move it around like this. Let's pick all of these images now. I'm going to hit R on my keyboard, and then we can start playing with the rotation of these to get something more artistic. Now I'm going to select this shape, press S for scale, and scale that up a bit to open a little bit the circle in here. And I'm going to pick all of these images. Let's hit U and then pick all of the images, press S for scale, and I'm going to reduce these to around 30%. Now let's pick this null layer and move it down like this. As you can see, we have this nice rotation going on in here, but what we are missing is some light. To add some light, we're going to go to Layer, New, and add light from here. We're going to use a simple point light like this, press OK, and then we can move it around like this. We can duplicate this to add another one, and we're going to move that to around there and reposition it until it looks good, basically. I'm going to pick all of these images once again, hit R on my keyboard, and see what else I can adjust slightly to make this look even better. So something like this would look nice. So now the basic shape is done. Now to animate it. Now to animate it, it's super simple. We're going to go to the images position in here, and we're going to set a simple rotation. So let's hit R on our keyboard. We're going to go to the start in here, click on the stopwatch, then go to around, I'd say 4 seconds, and let's make it -160. Then we're going to pick both of these keyframes, hit F9 on our keyboard, go to this graph editor, pick the last keyframe, and we're going to pull it in from the handle so that it will end slowly. And now let's preview that. Now the next step would actually to add some secondary animation as these move throughout. So I would like to actually have like a null layer, and when these images are close to it, they would enlarge and go back down as they go away. So to do that, we can do the same thing that we did before, but as we will see, there's a small difference in this case. So let's have a look. I'm going to go and add an effector like we did before. And to do that, I'm actually going to go to the previous scene right over here, and I'm going to bring in an effector. So copy that, Command C, and I'm going to paste it right over here. Now, of course, we're going to use the same expression, the same scale expression. So let's pick the scale expression from our document. So we're going to copy that, Command C, and we are going to pick one of these images right over here, hit S for scale, hit Alt and click, and paste that right over there. And as you will notice, this doesn't really do anything to the images. Now, the natural thing to do is to actually go over the effector and check the attributes right over here. For instance, increase the scale in here to around 60 to see if that helps. And as you can see, as we move the effector around in here, this image is not reacting whatsoever. This is because the expression here is comparing the position of this image with the position of the effector right over here. And now the problem is that these images in here are actually parented to this null layer right over here. And in After Effects, when you parent something to something else, it changes its position values in here. Now, to bypass this, we would like to actually, instead of using the position of the layer in here, we need to use the position of the world, of the composition here. So don't worry, we're going to see how we can do that. So let's enter inside the scale attribute in here. And as before, I'm going to give you the expression. You can simply copy and paste, so you don't really need to worry about this. But basically what we need to do is we're going to pick this transform position, which right now is referring to the transform position of the layer, and we're going to set it to the world instead. So we're going to type in toWorld, and as you can see, it will give you the prompt right away. Then we're going to type in square brackets in here, and we're going to type in 0, 0, 0. And that's basically it. We're going to copy this part in here, and we're going to do the same for the second position right over here. Go to transform position and change it with this code snippet. Now, once again, I'm going to give you the code snippet for this, so you can simply come to the document in here, copy this whole chunk in here, and just change that like that. So you don't really need to go into this, but there's the explanation just in case you were wondering. So now let's pick this effector in here, and as we go over that layer, as you can see, it works normally. So we're going to pick this scale now, copy that, and we're going to paste it over the other images. And that's great. So now, as you can see, as this rotates in here, you can see each image in here being enlarged as it passes over this null layer. Now go to the effector and we're going to adjust the scale to around 40. So this looks great. You can see each image being enlarged as it passes from the middle in there. Now, one thing that we need to cover is actually how to change these images since they are using the same image in here. We can go to Project, find the image 1 composition that we have created and duplicate that. And now we have another composition called image 2. We can enter inside of that and fill it in with a different image, just like that. Remove the first one and scale this down to fit correctly right over here. Wonderful. We're going to click on this button like we did before, and then we're going to jump back to the previous composition. Now we can select the second image right over here. Let's select this one, for instance. We're simply going to go to image 2. We're going to hold Alt on our keyboard and just drag and drop over that image. And that's basically how you would switch compositions in here and retain their current properties. So everything stays the same in here, nothing changes. All you need to do is simply pick a composition, hold Alt on your keyboard and drag and drop. And like that, we have reverted to the previous layer. Now we are going to have a look at this scene where we have this pointer in here that as it hovers over these folders, they are being animated and react to it. But before that, I actually would like to go very quickly over this scene here and show you how this was created. So I'm going to jump to this empty composition here. It just have a number of images in here that are laid out in a line like this using the distribute horizontally button. And now I'm going to add a null layer. So layer, new and null object. Let's position that on top right over here and we're going to rename that to Effector like before basically. In this case, I'm actually going to be using the Mograph Effector preset. Of course, you can still use the expressions to do this. So let's get started. First, I'm going to add another null layer. So let's just duplicate this and we're going to call this images position. And like before, I'm actually going to pick all of these images in here and we're going to parent them to that null right over there. So that now I can simply pick that null layer right over there and we can change its position like that and the images would follow it like that. Now, just in case you have purchased this preset before, I am actually going to update it to include the world properties so that it works with layers that are actually parented. So let's have a quick look at that. Let's go to the Effector right over here. We're going to go over the animation presets in here. We're going to open user presets. I have this already installed in here. So let's go to Mograph presets right over here. I have installed both the basic version and the Pro version. In this case, I'm going to be using the Pro version, which has some additional advanced features. So let's open up the Pro version world, which would work with the parented images in here. And we're going to simply double click on Mograph Pro Effector in here while we have the Effector layer selected. So let's double click on that. And immediately you would see this UI in here with these nice properties in here all laid out right over here. We will go through these in a second. Let's first add the Mograph presets to these images. So I'm going to select all of those images. We're going to go to the Mograph Pro 3D layer in here. Now this is for 3D layers, so I'm going to switch these to 3D. And then we're going to double click on Mograph Pro 3D layer, double click on that. And like that, we have applied our preset to all the images. And that's basically, that's all you need to do. So now if I go to the Effector right over here, you can immediately see how that scene was created where the Effector scales up the images. One small additional thing that we did in that scene was that we actually tweaked also the position of the images. So I'm going to go to the Effector right over here, go to the affected properties, and we are going to go to the position XYZ. We're going to go to the Z-axis in here and bring that to around -200. And now if I move this Effector over different images in here, you can see those coming in the front like this. So now what we can do is position the Effector somewhere around here. Then we can pick the image's position right over here and we can animate this. Let's start at 0 seconds, hit P on your keyboard and keyframe that. And we're going to put that all the way out, just like that. Then go to around the 6 second mark in here. And we're going to animate it back in to somewhere around here. And then we can select this keyframe, hit F9 on our keyboard, go to the graph editor and flatten out this curve in here by pulling this handle right over here. Like that, the animation starts fast and ends slowly. So let's see how this looks. Perfect. So this looks brilliant. Now the intro scene actually also had some of these images that were in black and white. So let's very quickly see how we can do that. I can select one of the images and I can bring in a tint effect. So let's just drag and drop that tint effect right over that. And if you remember earlier, we have used special properties. In this case, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to click on the stopwatch right over here, just so we reveal that keyframe. Let's hit U on our keyboard to reveal that. And now click on the stopwatch again to reveal this property right over here. So I'm going to select that property. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the effects and presets in here. I'm going to type in property. And we're going to find the special properties in here. So let's double click on special property 1. And that's basically it. That special property has been added to this tint. Let's pick that tint effect, copy it, Command C on your keyboard. You can select all the images in here and paste it right over those. So Command V to paste it. And as you can see, they are all in black and white. Now what we can do is we can go to the Effector, find the special properties from the Effector. So if we open that up, we can find some special properties in here. Since we added property 1 in here, we're going to go to property 1 right over here. Property 1 from, we're going to leave that at 100, but property 1 2, we're going to put that to 0. So like that, whatever is on the Effector in here would have 0% tint, so it would have its color. So let's see how that looks. And that looks quite great. Now, some additional features that this have is, of course, that you can tweak things like opacity in here and even things like rotation. So you can add some secondary rotation in here like this. And another cool feature that the Pro version actually have is actually to add secondary animations. So if we open this menu right over here, animations, we can simply switch on wiggle scale, for instance, or wiggle rotation. And what will happen now? Any layers that fall within the range of the Effector in here would actually have this nice wiggle animation over them. So let's see this in action. Great. And as you can see now, the layers are not just reacting to the Effector, but they are also being like animated slightly by the Effector. You can also decrease the amount in here and decrease the frequency in here if you would like. So those were some features of the presets. Of course, feel free to use the free expressions to create this, but if you would like a little bit more control or even to create these a little bit faster, you can get the presets, and I'm going to leave a link in the description below. Now we are going to create the last scene with the opening folders as we hover over them. This might seem very complex, but it actually uses a small technique that makes all the difference. Let's go to the project window, and I'm actually going to grab my image 1, and I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call this opening folder. We're going to double click on that to open that composition. I'm just going to delete these. Inside of this, I'm simply going to paste this image in here. So I'm going to paste this image. It can be any image. In this case, it's an image of a folder. And this specific design is actually split into 3 layers. So I have the front right over here. I have the paper right over here. And I also have the back right over here. Of course, it could be any image. In this case, I'm just using an image of a folder. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a very simple animation. So I would like this animation to range from 0 to the 2-second mark right over here. I would like to start it from a closed position. Let's go to the paper right over here, go over P and keyframe the position, go over S and keyframe the scale like that. I'm going to hit U to reveal both of those keyframes, and I'm going to reduce the scale like that and reposition it right over there to hide it. Now I'm going to go to the 2-second mark and I'm going to increase the size, and I'm also going to change the position so that the paper goes out like that. Let's play with it a little bit more like that, and that's basically it. Pick the front. We are going to drop on it a simple effect called transform, and let's place that right over there. And with this effect, we are going to skew this front to create some more interesting animation. Go to this place right over here, keyframe this skew. I'm going to change the skew axis to around 90 degrees in here, and this is what that does, basically, the skew. So we're going to start from a completely flat space, hit U on our keyboard to see the keyframe. I'm also going to hit P on my keyboard and keyframe the position. Let's hit U again to reveal both keyframes, and we can position this right over here. So it starts from a completely closed space, then at the 2-second mark, change the skew in here, something around -11, and change its position to around this place right over here. And now we can tweak slightly the paper in here to fill this space perfectly. Wonderful. So now we have this simple folder opening up like that. That looks great already. Now to make this a bit better, I'm going to introduce a color change as well. So I'm going to bring in a tint effect. We're going to drag and drop it over the front, and we're going to go from this like blue, perfect. And we can keyframe the amount of the tint. We can set the amount to 100% at 0 seconds, and then go to that 2-second mark and set that to 0%. And that way we have animation from blue to yellow like that. Pick that tint, I'm going to copy, go to the 0-second mark of our timeline, and I'm going to paste it on the back. So now the final step that we need to do is we're going to hit U on our keyboard to reveal all keyframes. We're going to pick the end keyframes right over here, and we're going to go over the graph editor, and we're going to click on this button, Easy Ease In, and we're going to pick this handle and do that, basically pull it in like that. Make sure you pick all of the handles, and the animation now looks like this. And now we can go back to the carousel 2 that we were in earlier, that we created earlier, and I'm going to pick all of the images in here. And if you remember correctly, to switch them, it's super simple. All you need to do is pick all the layers, go on the composition that you would like to swap it with. We're going to hold Alt and simply drag and drop. And like that, now we have all those folders in place in there. The only thing is that, as you can see, the animation is happening all at once in here. If we pick the effector, we can see that the actual scale is working well in here, but we just need to tweak the actual animation. To do this, let's go to this start right over here, and let's pick one of the folders. Perfect. And we are going to go to right click, time, and enable time remapping. And let's very quickly see what this does. So if we go over time remapping in here, we can go over here and give it a value of 2, for instance, of 2 seconds. As we give it a value of 2 seconds, this folder opens. If we give it a value of like 10 frames, you can see that the animation like that is in midway. So basically whatever value is here, it will take the time from this composition right over here. And since it ranges from 0 to 2, we can basically play the animation using the time remapping from 0 to 2 like that. So let's go to this composition right over here. If we go to the effector, we can see that we have the property 1 from and property 1 2 that we did earlier in the other composition. We are going to simply go to our document right over here, and I'm going to copy the property 1 expression. Copy that. Very soon we would also need to swap a part with this part as we did earlier. And let's go over the time remapping, click Alt right over here and paste that expression right over there. As you know, this is parented right now to the images position. So we would actually need to go to the pose 1 and pose 2 and change this last part with the toWorld part in here. So I'm simply going to bring back my document right over here, and I'm going to copy these and swap them up with this. That's it. If we click back now, we can click on the effector and test this out. Of course, we need to change the properties of these first. So let's go to property 1 from, set that to 0, and property 1 2, since the total duration of this is 2 seconds, we're going to set that to 2. So set that to 2, and there we go. We have our animation happening as we hover over this layer, just like that. So that looks great. Now the final step is to actually pick the time remap in here, copy it, and paste it over all the other folders. Command V on your keyboard, and there we go. Now as this thing rotates like this, you can see different folders popping up like that. And now the final step is to actually add that nice glass mouse. So if I go to the project window in here, I actually have this 3D pointer that is already rendered out in here. So I'm simply going to drag and drop it right over here. And we can simply parent this then to the effector right over here. Now, if you would like to know how to create 3D glass objects, I actually have a whole video on this. So just check the description for the link to this video.